I tell you, John, it ain't easy traveling all over the country and keeping the show going. How are you tonight?
I'm very well. Excuse me. I'm very well, Jason. How are you? You look good.
Thank you. It's been a busy day of driving. I think a lot of people know I was visiting family for Thanksgiving, and I'm on my way back to New York now. And John, I am super appreciative of the viewer sponsors that make this and other shows on Crowdsource the Truth possible. You and I are going to be doing our sponsor exclusive segment in just about 30 minutes. People can watch that on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. And, there's a segment that we do on there almost every week called Hate Mail, Great Mail. And I don't want to step on your toes, nor do I want to give a troll credit. But I do want to just comment for a moment because there is somebody who got into the YouTube comments, and I won't mention who he is because we don't want to give this person any credit, but he's a muffler deleting fool who made a point of saying that he loves everything we do and watches everything on YouTube, but would never give a cent to watch anything on Subscribestar or Patreon. And listen, I got to tell you, I really feel for people who are losing their income. You and I have been discussing this. It's been a real decline on Subscribestar and Patreon, and I understand it's tough. But to go and comment, it's one thing to watch the YouTube portion. I actually really do appreciate people who are watching on YouTube and enjoying the show. But to make a point of making a comment to tell us and other people that you specifically would never pay even the nominal monthly amount, that's just a rude person, and it's totally unnecessary. It is so difficult to keep this show going while I'm traveling around. No dinner tonight. I'm set up here in a hotel with a bit of an impromptu system, so people might notice some slight technical differences today, but we are basically firing on all cylinders as far as I can tell. We have all the capabilities that I normally have in the New York studio. What have you got for us tonight, John?
Well, I've been fascinated with group hypnosis for a long time. It's one of the things that I just find amazing. Hypnosis in general, I find fascinating. And for those of you who pay attention to the location of the video broadcasts, if you go to the Johnny Hoover channel, you'll see that we're broadcasting tonight from a location in Austria that many people may not be familiar with. So I guess you have to go to the video and see it first. Let's see if anybody's watching, if it's live. And
it's working.
The location. All right. So the location is Isnang, Austria.
Oh,
and that's
what do you mean?
Have you been there? Have you been
Definitely
to Isnang?
No, I never heard of it before. Right now.
Okay, so Isnang, Austria, is the home of Franz Mesmer, and Franz Mesmer is where the term mesmerize comes from, and he was the father of hypnosis.
Wow.
Franz Mesmer.
I didn't know that.
So when you hear the term mesmerized, it's like being hypnotized.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And he's also the guy that came up with animal magnetism, which is a little bit less scientific. Right.
Right. Opposites attract.
Interesting guy.
Oh, yeah.
And another astronomer, another member of the Shepherd Ambellis Astronomy Club. Another astronomer. And very, very interesting
didn't NASA
guy.
Launch some mission to explode an asteroid? They're like, it's just a test. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's DART. And, we'll talk about that later. But this guy, Mesmer, he's the father of hypnosis. And hypnosis is something that's very real. And group hypnosis is something that I just find amazing. And many people have studied things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and things of that nature. And one of the things I find fascinating about this pandemic is the degree to which the media can control sort of the public hysteria, shall we say, and the direction of the hysteria. In other words, a few weeks back, the hysteria was whipped up about a Delta variant. We had Delta variant hysteria. And now we have Omicron variant hysteria. And so I'm just fascinated with watching how the hysteria moves, from topic to topic over the course of the pandemic. And so it's very common for people to think that they can't be hypnotized. And yet, when you watch a magic trick get performed, in many ways, that's kind of what's happening. What you think you're seeing and what you're seeing are not really the same thing, right? And that's how the magic trick works. So what we're going to look at tonight are some elements of the story to see, when faced with it, do you snap out of that hypnosis? And in fact, when people talk about being woke and wake up, they're talking about not from sleeping, but from a state of hypnosis. Exactly. And so they want you to wake up. And so I think many people in the audience who've been following our show and looking at our data and looking at the charts and looking at the graphs and all that, when they share that data with their friends and family, their friends and family respond with things like, oh, well, the Koreans eat well. And they're not overweight, and they don't drink as much Coca-Cola as we do. So, of course, there's less than 4,000 people dead over there. It's like, what?
That's actually smarter than most people I know. They just say that's not true and go on watching CNN.
Well, yeah. So what we're experiencing here is this, this Dunning-Kruger effect, which is when the audience shares these observations and this data with friends and family. Oftentimes, the recipient of the data, because the cognitive dissonance is so strong, jumps into a Dunning-Kruger mode, which is this instant explanation without any research, right? So in other words, we've been researching this for a year and a half or whatever. And when you share with somebody that Taiwan, which has more people than New York, right, 24 million, New York has 19, when you share with them that Taiwan has fewer than 1,000 people dead, they immediately want to offer an explanation rather than take that in for a minute and consider what are the ramifications of that. It's like, well, what does that mean? Hold on a second. Taiwan has more people than New York and less than 1,000 dead. How the hell did Cuomo end up with 50-something thousand dead?
I don't know.
If that data is real, that should be an element of the story that is investigated further. And the fact that no one wants to pursue it makes it suspicious. Or at least in my eyes, it does.
Yeah. You had a great tweet earlier today, John, where you were showing some data from the Johns Hopkins map pertaining to Vietnam. This is the type of stuff we're looking at each week. Is this it here? Face the map? No, you had one where this is it right here. So you're telling everybody on Twitter who's following you at I am John Cullen, 9 months ago, Vietnam had fewer than 500 C-19 deaths. The green chart is weekly vaccinations. White is weekly deaths. Now they're at 26,000. This is stunning information right here. And, for any of the Twitter people with this new Twitter CEO who want to deny this, or YouTube who wants to ban us, this is information from the Johns Hopkins, Eng Shang Dang, whatever the guy's name is. This is the data.
Yeah, this is the official map from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. And what I shared in this tweet are 3 different images. One is the overall image that shows where Vietnam is now with 26,000 people dead. And on the right side, you see 3 different graphs, 3 different charts. And these 3 different charts are showing weekly vaccinations. That's in green. And it goes up to the right. And then it shows cases and deaths. And I don't like to talk about cases a whole lot, but on the upper right-hand side is red, and that's cases. Pop back a sec. If you go back to the,
Yeah.
So the red is cases, and cases is higher than it's ever been in Vietnam.
Wow.
The white is deaths. And they
Also
barely
very
had
high.
anyone dead.
Yeah.
Exactly. So both of them seem to correspond with their distribution of vaccines. That doesn't necessarily mean that the vaccines caused those deaths. It could be something else that happened at the same time. But it's worth exploring further if you care about how we went from less than 200 people dead to 26,000 people dead in less than a 6-month period.
Seems
in Vietnam.
like
now,
something they
that said,
want to know about.
That said, hang on though, with 100 million people, that's 2.5 times the population of California. 2.5 times more people than Gavin Newsom, yet Gavin Newsom has 70-something thousand dead. So even though Vietnam has 2.5 times more people, Gavin Newsom has 3 times more dead. That's remarkable. And to me, if that's not criminal negligence or negligent manslaughter, the district attorneys are confused. The attorney generals are confused. Now,
God, this guy
yes,
looks like
he's
the
very
Joker,
good
John.
looking.
No,
He's
he looks like the
very
Joker.
handsome.
You get the makeup on this
Very
dude.
handsome. Very handsome. He's going to be very popular in prison. Criminal
I think
negligence.
he's what you call
criminal
a dandy.
negligence. He's what you call the number one roommate on the block. Yeah. Everybody wants to room with Gavin. So, yeah, he's going to be very popular. What can you say, man? He's got over 70,000 people dead. Put this in perspective. Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya combined have fewer dead than Gavin Newsom. Nigeria has 200 million people. Ethiopia has over 100 million. Kenya combined have fewer dead than Gavin Newsom's California. We just looked at Vietnam.
But California has better restaurants.
By far. Right? By far. And when we're talking about the things that really matter, the French Laundry is where you want to be. All right, let's go to our next slide in the deck, and let me show the audience a little bit more about what we're going to cover tonight.
Right. This will be our first slide. John likes to deliver the bottom line up front.
Bottom line up front. That's what they teach at West Point. So it appears that this Omicron variant is supposed to scare us terribly. And the reason it's supposed to scare us terribly is something that we went into last week on our patron-only show. We looked at the 3D model of the spike protein and how cool. It had, right? And so the spike protein had all kinds of new capabilities, and the furin cleavage site now is this instead of that. Fascinating stuff if you're a virus geek. Now, I sent you a little video that we've got queued up that I want to show the audience. And this is an animal that is a starfish. All right, so this is a starfish, just like other starfish. But this starfish looks different because its spike proteins, its tentacles, its thingamajigs, the things that come off of it, are different from other starfish.
Looks like a fern.
Okay. Now, it's a fascinating animal to watch, but it's still a starfish. Okay. So when we talk about the Omicron variant, it's still coronavirus, right? It's just that it has different spike protein characteristics than these other variants. And so when I look at the feather star, I think of Omicron. it has fascinating spike protein qualities. Still a starfish. Still a starfish. Okay.
Huh.
So that's my take on Omicron. Let's go back to our deck.
Yeah.
You're fascinated with the starfish. You're thinking
it was
sushi.
a really interesting animal. So here's Walensky. What's she up to now?
All right. So this is an article from Reason that was published about a week ago. It says that CDC Director Rochelle Walensky has lauded the success of China's really strict lockdowns.
Oh.
So wait a second. Is CDC Director Walensky saying that really there aren't 10 people dead in Beijing? Is she admitting
it sounds like she's saying
China?
the lockdown gave that result.
Okay. Now, many people, part of the lunatic fringe, talk that when I say China doesn't have 5,000 dead and there's not 10 dead in Beijing, they say, well, because they welded everybody inside their apartments.
That's the
which
ticket.
is just nuts, right? Now, you've been to China. I've been to China. Nobody welded anybody inside their apartments. Okay, it's just nonsense.
Well, I wasn't
right?
there when they were doing the welding. We saw videos.
I know. All right, but when you look at the video of the lockdown in Wuhan and you look at the footage that you shot traveling around the country, America was locked down. All right. So what Director Walensky's saying here is that what China did might have worked. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is just propaganda to the, this is what
I got in a car
accident. It's from
in China.
Yeah. Look who it's from, by the way. It's from CBC. Right. So this is designed.
Canada.
Yeah. It's the BBC of Canada. Right. So this is the type of propaganda that they want you to believe, is that they're locking people in the homes and welding them in and that sort of thing. And, again, whatever is going on here, that's not the case. All right. So let's move on from that. Let's go to our next slide in the deck.
You sure the guy's not trying to break in?
Yeah. Yeah. Or whatever the hell. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's going to get welded. 1.4 billion people were welded into their homes. All right. So this is the other thing that's happening now. ERs are now swamped with seriously ill people, but they don't have COVID.
Oh.
Huh.
What do they have?
That's kind of weird. What could it be? These people are really sick, Jason, and they have a fever and they're coughing, and it looks like they have COVID, but they don't have COVID. I wonder what the hell it is. I don't know. Let's go to the next page. Let's see what's going on.
Oh, massive, unusually low, Brett.
Yeah, except there's a massive, unusually large outbreak at the University of Michigan. So the CDC is investigating a massive, unusual flu outbreak at the University of Michigan. And yet there's a whole bunch of people in the hospital somewhere else, and they can't figure out what it might be that these people were sick with. Fascinating. Let's go to the next page and see if there's any connection here between this influenza outbreak at the University of Michigan.
That drew investigators, but everything going on in Nigeria, they didn't investigate.
Yeah, no, that's not worth it. All right, so here we have this massive flu outbreak. University of Michigan draws investigators. Let's go to the next page. So big flu outbreak. Next page on the deck. What do we got?
Wow. Rowan University in New Jersey
has a flu outbreak. So we read this article that says emergency rooms are filled with people who are really sick that don't have COVID. And then you start, Rowan University is having a flu outbreak. Michigan University is having a flu outbreak. Well, gee whiz, I wonder what it is. Maybe it's Ebola. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Morons. I mean, come on. Who's running this country, for God's sakes? Campus flu outbreak climbs to over 500 cases. The state health department has raised the alarm. University of Michigan's Ann Arbor campus, over 525 cases among students. But they can't figure out what's going on in those emergency rooms, Jason. All these people are sick and it's not COVID. And they don't know what it is. I wonder what it could be.
Well, but look at what they're already discussing. It's because people are unvaccinated against the flu. Now we're living in a world where getting sick at all is unacceptable. You have to be vaccinated against every possible illness.
I know. Well, now that I can't use that jock itch spray anymore, I'm going to need a vaccination against fungus outbreaks in the crotch. I don't know what kind of shot they have for that, but we're going to need to work on that. Let's call Dr. Judy, see if she can give me a hand with that. All right, Peru. You and I have been talking about Peru now for months. When everybody was talking about Delta, I was talking about Lambda, because Lambda was the strain that devastated Peru. And Peru had the highest death rate in the world. Well, now, finally, after you and I have been addressing it again and again and again, this guy, Jason Beaubien, writes a story, and this is picked up. This is NPR. Peru has the world's highest death rate. Here's why. So this is on NPR, and they get into the story of Peru. Now, you and I have been talking about Peru for months with the Lambda variant. And how devastating the Lambda variant. Yeah.
When they say rate, are they talking per capita or how quickly people are dying? What do they mean death rate?
Per capita. Per capita. It's the highest deaths per capita in the world is Peru. And that's what you and I were covering. We kept saying, why wouldn't you be freaked out about the variant causing the most deaths per capita? Who cares how contagious it is? That's like the golden retriever. Right. Golden Retriever's got 14 puppies. So what? They're Golden Retriever puppies. Lambda is killing everybody in Peru. And so now finally they pick up the story. All right, let's go to the next slide before we have to go to our patron-only thing just in a couple. We only have like 2 minutes. South Korea. We're going to take a look tonight at the data coming out of these different countries. Everybody keeps saying, well, China's lying. And I go, well, what about Korea? Korea has over 50 million people and fewer people dead than Connecticut. And now they have more cases and more people dying. Well, we're going to go to the map. We're going to look at vaccines in Korea versus deaths versus cases. Why are there more cases in Korea now than at any other time in the pandemic? That's what we're going to look at. Now we're going to see if we can answer this question.
It could be people eating all that communal soup, John. I told you the story about how I went to a business meeting in Korea and they brought out soup and everybody ate with super long spoons from the same bowl of soup.
Right, that's how they do it. Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
Now, John, before we make our way over to the sponsor-exclusive segment, I do want to remind people that there's a lot of ways, for those who aren't sponsors, there are a lot of ways that people can watch the show. We are on Rumble. People can see simulcasts of the weekly YouTube lead-ins by going to rumble.com/user/CS-the-truth. And there we go. And I'm really taxing the internet in this hotel room here. And they can also find I Am John Cullen on Rumble. The other thing is Odyssey, odyssey.com, crowdsource the truth on there. It's actually odyssey.com is one of the best places to find old videos from Crowdsource the Truth that have been maybe removed from YouTube, because YouTube loves to remove our content. I'm pretty sad about that, John, because even if we've said anything in the past that wasn't correct, we go back and correct it. And it's nice to have that kind of record to say, oh, look, this is what people were thinking in 2018, and have that chronology. It really is very bad, this destruction of information. It's literally the equivalent of book burning. And I've been listening to some excellent books on the drive here, a book called The Hidden Nazi. Unbelievable stuff in there. But people are going to be able to join us for the sponsor-exclusive segment in just about 5 minutes on patreon.com and subscribestar.com. People can go to either of those websites and search for I Am John Cullen or Crowdsource the Truth, And they're going to get a lot more information. There's a whole library of sponsor-exclusive videos there right now, and we're in the beginning part of the month. It's a great time to get on there. You can also gift subscriptions to friends and family members. People want to send me an email at truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org. I can help them figure out how to get a gift sponsorship going for friends and family. And people can also go to crowdsourcethetruth.com and sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund to get that. So we'll be back in less than 5 minutes, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the deck and going in depth